Okay, so I was listening to David Pakman, and it was basically a question: is there a mass shooting deadly enough to change conservative minds? And he went over the whole thing. And look, and conservatives, gun nuts, and all those people. I mean, when you think about it, they're not the driving force per se. They are a cog in the machine. They are the manipulated. They've been fed the bill of goods that when um, want to protect yourself, you need to get a gun, you need to get the best gun, you need to get the strongest gun. All right, then you got military grade weapons that are favored by watching these war movies and the yay rah rah troops and all that. So people want that. They see it on TV. They think it'd be cool. Then they did these movies where every single black gang had AK-47s, semi-automatic machine guns and handguns and all this other stuff. So then people thought, whoa, the only way to contend with this is to arm ourselves with something thereof, something bigger than the AK-47, something scarier, like the AR-15, AR-14s. And the thing is, black gangs didn't have those AK-47s that much. They were freaking rare. And then, and also someone might say, well, what about Ice Cube's song? Today I didn't have to use my AK. Ice Cube, I don't think he ever owned an AK-47. In addition, the AK-47 was not, even at that time, something you would find. It was more like almost the Mercedes-Benz of guns for black gangs. Very few people were able to get one, let alone the bullets for one. And there were some that had the guns, but not the bullets. It was just to scare the hell out of people. There was a lot of this stuff going on. When you fabricate things and then say, this is what's true, and then you have those who are deathly afraid of black people saying, I have to arm myself or I am going to die. I am protecting my family. It's a cycle. And so that means the gun manufacturers and sales and things like that keep going up to get the next model. Even if that model is, it's a hair trigger. Now it's pre-sawed off. It's short hilted. There's a thinner barrel or a shorter barrel. It can be so many tiny, monumental yet needed things in their mind. So there's always going to be, we need better no matter what. And that it's a cycle. So David Pakman went on to talk about how although Obama and 90% of Congress and the voters, supporters, Republicans, Democrats, and whatnot alike wanted gun reform, he still couldn't get it passed. Here's the thing. You got to think about this. If you have the majority of Congress that wants to reform gun laws and the majority of bipartisan voters, and I mean the grand majority of these voters want gun reform, and yet gun reform doesn't happen, you got to wonder why. You can say, okay, the NRA and gun manufacturers, they're lobbying meaning buying these politicians to not vote. So they want gun reform, but they say, wait a minute, I could get it, but I must bow down to these people or I'm not going to get it. That's the scary part. So they got to get the money. They change their votes accordingly. That means your politicians are bought. Democrat and Republican alike. That means they are bought. That means for money to make sure that they don't end up broke and like the commoners, they are going to allow you to die. And I want you to know something. You have to think about all of the mass murders that has happened via gun. Okay, and gun wielder, not just the gun walking around by itself. But think of all of those things that's happened. And no one's done anything. So then you got schools that's been getting shot up for quite a long time now, where over 300 kids have died with these deaths, this gun violence, these white on white crimes. And that's how it was at first. Now it's changing. Now they're targeting the minorities far more. And see, when that happens, it shifts, because Sandy Hook should have been the wake-up call of all wake-up calls. It should have been the last one to happen. And where they just say, look, we got to change this. But instead, they demonize the kids, they demonize those that support the kids, and they demonize those that are on the quote-unquote left, and call them weak, call them scared, say you want to remove the Second Amendment, any and everything except wait a minute, we need to make sure crazy people can't get guns. And this is my assumption here, this might be, they don't want the crazy people to have the gun, they don't want the guns removed from crazy people, because the crazy people are the ones with the guns that's trying to keep the Second Amendment. Because you got to be crazy to say, I want this deadly weapon in my home around me and my family to protect me from people that's not coming near me. Just think about that. If you got to pause the video and just say, wait, let me think about that. Pause the video if you got to at any point. Comment whenever you got to. All right? Gun reform is really the first step in basically gun removal. They are not needed. The only reason anyone would need a gun right now would be to protect yourself from the cops. But when you do that, you won't protect yourself from the cops. And that leads me into what David Pakman was talking about. He said something, I thought, you done lost your damn mind. I'm going to go ahead and play it and put it on the screen. So it'll be starting to play, but also it'll be on the screen. And I might have to pause it here and there at times. So I'm going to go ahead and get it on screen. There you go. And
what might actually, and I hate to say this, but what might actually change things is if large groups of minorities start to not only arm themselves, but make a big show of it. Do it in the same way that a lot of these right-wing, mostly white groups do it. The open carry displays or whatever. I'm not for any of that stuff. I hate it. I think it's disgusting. I think it's a waste of people's lives that's how they want to be activists, to walk around with guns visible in a Walmart or wherever else on the street, whatever the case may be. But I think that a lot of the sort of hardcore, conservative, white gun owners, if all of a sudden gun ownership becomes a thing of large groups of minority gun owners publicly displaying their firearms, some of them will defend it on principle, I know, but a lot of them aren't going to like it. And it's funny because a lot of people tweeted me, David, you know what'll change things? If all of a sudden armed black militia groups, armed Latino militia groups in border states start making big displays of their open carrying, where it is legal, of course.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. And the reason I'm pausing it, first, let me bring this up. The Black Panthers, that's what they did. They specialized in law. They specialized in gun law, regulations, and they were a well-organized, well-armed militia. They were everything that was needed. Everything of the Second Amendment they were. And they stood with their rifles. They stood with their shotguns. They stood with their handguns out in the open. And yes, they were approached by police officers. And police officers at first, you know what? They didn't do anything. You know why? Because they knew think about how afraid, as sad as it is to say it, that enough white people are afraid of black people. Just deathly afraid of black people. They are definitely not going to, poke the hornet's nest. They know that if as soon as I open fire or pull my gun, it's going to be some shit. They know this. So So they didn't do anything. They argue and all kinds of things. There's a book where Huey P. Newton, was pretty much covering for yet protecting their Second Amendment rights. It's a book Tom Hartman has referred to multiple times. And the people would approach like that. But how did the Black Panthers end? In gunfire. The FBI, that's federal, okay? Because Federal Bureau of Investigations, they played the Black Panthers against themselves because egos run high. So they played them against each other. And the Black Panthers failed to do the one thing that they were always certain to do, which was communicate and check themselves and each other and have conversations. It went from that to almost a dictatorship because times got stressed real quick. So what did the police officers do? Because they know they most likely had guns, but at this time the Black Panthers was on the run. They were hiding. They were scared. The organization that fell apart. They were no longer feeding children. They were no longer going overseas, talking, world peace with China and other countries. They were no longer going to the government and saying, hey, how can we make this a peaceful area? They were no longer doing that. How can we get equality? The movement fell because the Black Panthers had white people of varying shades and backgrounds and black people of varying shades and backgrounds working together. The Black Panthers were powerful and they did a lot of good. They were the best thing that was happening until manipulations, egos, and in the middle of the night while they slept, the very few that were left, the FBI, local police officers, raided a home, snuck in, kicked down the doors at the last second, and shot up as many of them as they could, with very few gunfire returned. And then they said when they went, it was gunfire, it was gunshots. They almost got killed. They got off a few shots and took the lives of them. They went in there and slaughtered them and lied. Today, fast forward today, you can't be a black man naked with mental illness, holding a screwdriver, leaning against a house wall on the outside and not get shot. You can't be a black man laying on the street with your hands up, trying to help a mentally ill child in your care with no weapons and not get shot. You can't be a black person calling the cops to help you without getting harassed, detained, and then arrested by the cops. You can't. You can't. So to say we need today what we had back then, no, today you will get murdered. You can't be a black woman that's an attorney driving an expensive car and not get murdered under the care of these police officers. You can't do anything. You can't break up a fight so no one goes to prison without getting choked out. You can't even support your father without undergoing death threats and stress and then therefore suffering a heart attack and losing your life. This country, as sick as it is, not only are the this racists in general, not too many, the fact that there are racists in general that hate everything and everyone except straight white Christian patriarchy, male patriarchy. The male patriarchy. It's redundant, but gotta put that in there. Can't just have that. No. It's horrible how things are. And yes, if you are from south of the border, no matter what shade of brown you are, you're considered dirty, a rapist. you're stealing marijuana in large, heavy bags and running full bore, nonstop, hundreds and hundreds of miles to get to the United States. And that's why you have calves the size of cantaloupes, which will most likely be bigger than their thigh, might I add. I mean, just to say that. Just to say that. Takes a despicable person. It really does. So, David Pakman, who says, and although he says he hates it, he hasn't thought about it. This country hates black and brown people. This country hates them. And even though that's not the majority of the country, it's not pushed back by what's remaining of the country. If 1/3 of the country hates these people, the 2/3 that should be denouncing that and fighting it aren't doing it. And if they are, it's in small niche groups. Like groups of 10 or 20, or, yelling it at the table, the kitchen table or something. That's what's going on. People are going to die if they try to do this. They're dying without it. And if the cops who are trained to not even learn the law, but trained inside of 6 months and trained to let you know and to believe, it's their religion. If you do not obey me, no matter how much of a question or suggestion it is a command nonetheless. And if you do not, then I am in danger of my life and I have the right to kill you. It is that simple. You saw a white guy in a hotel who was forced to play Simon Says. And when he could not do as Simon Says because he was exhausted, tired, and it's like, you can't play Twister and Simon Says at the same time. He got murdered by the cop. These are the things that happen. I'm gonna keep playing this, but these are things that I want to say. I want to get this out because when I listen to this, it kind of annoyed me. But I hear where he's coming from. He's coming from a place of privilege. He's coming from a place of a little bit of social ignorance. David Pakman seems to be in his own bubble that reads data, statistics, and whatnot, but he doesn't seem to have any actual real world experience. And this comes from a guy trapped in his home due to his illness. Let me keep going.
And I actually think that might actually influence a lot of people to start saying, wait, hold on a second, we've got to reconsider this. Although, of course, they would reconsider it only in the most hypocritical way. They don't want those other people doing it. They would still want it for themselves, but it might actually shake things up enough that you might at least get some new conversations instead of the talking point conversations we're stuck in now. Mass shooting. The guns aren't the problem. The fact that it was a gun-free zone is the problem. Okay, but what about banning these types of weapons? Those weapons are often not the ones actually used in the crimes. Okay, well, what about ammunition? A lot of that stuff is aftermarket. It's like the same talking point conversations that go nowhere. Maybe that would actually change that up. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think would actually change the mind of a pro-gun right-wing fetishist on this issue.
All right. It makes... Look... I am not being anti-David Pakman. I'm honestly, okay, I'll be honest with you. Normally I am a bit anti-David Pakman. It's just, there's a level of respect for your audience you need to have, and he doesn't have it. And when I say that, I mean when people call in and talk to him, he'll cut them off short. I get that he wants to, he's trying to do his show and all this and all that, but when you have callers, listen to them. Hear them out. Don't just assume and then run with it. If you don't know what they're saying, don't assume what you believe. He makes that mistake ad nauseum. But that's just, it's slightly nitpicky. But here's something else. Yeah, if you did have these minorities, the black and brown people of the United States of America, saying, here are our guns, we have them, what will happen is these scared white people, they are going to arm themselves more. Smith and Wesson and all of these people are going to sell out even more. That's all that's going to happen. There's going to be what you call an upheaval of stupidity. And no one's going to know what to do other than what someone else tells them to do, which is pretty much where we are anyway, with a large amount of Stockholm Syndrome. So what could be done to change the minds of these, I think he called them gun fetishes or whatnot. I'll be honest with you, I always thought a fetish was like a kink. I'm like, if you want to just shove a gun up your hole or find a big barrel gun and fuck it. Well, I mean, that's, hey, do you. Make sure it's not loaded. One way to change their minds is to let them know, in general, you live in a white society. I mean, like, where you are, just white people around. You don't got to fear black and brown people. You got to fear them. You ain't got to fear us. We're trying to stay away from you so we don't get killed. Yeah, that's because I got my gun. No, it ain't that. Here's the thing. Black people call the cops and we get jacked up. White people call the cops and black people get jacked up. White people have now weaponized the cops, which is why you have these barbecue Beckys and lemonade Susie and whatnot, and then the watching Cult of Dusty and how he showed this grandmother who approached these black kids and approached them, telling them to stay away from her, saying, I've got grandchildren. It's like, we don't see them and we don't give a damn. We minding our own business. And then telling them, stay away from this area, a certain area where I guess she lives. And one says, I live there. I'm from there. And she's like, where? It don't matter where. It's like, I'm from there. And plus, you don't have dominion. You can't make someone not go someplace. If they want to drive their car in and sit on the side of the street, that's their damn prerogative. Now, that mess is unsettling. I'll give it that. But that's their prerogative. As long as they ain't harming anybody, it's all good. Cars pull up and stop right in front of the driveway or my yard. And it's, hey, phone. Oh, I got some kind of message here. A cricket reminder. Oh, 11:59 p.m. They'll be turning it off. I got that 2 days ago. When they turn it off, they turn it off. I ain't got the money for it. You got the money for it. No phone. So these people, what could help them? Just let them know ain't nobody trying to kill you. Ain't nobody around you. Ain't no black people around you. You fine. Ain't no brown people around you. You fine. Although you can't wait to go, to a Mexican restaurant. But, hey, you don't like them and they're dirty to you. But you can't wait to eat there, though, can you? Can't wait to eat the dirty people's clean food? Yeah. That's cognitive dissonance. That's what that is. Best thing you can do is have a conversation with them and tell them the truth. And ask them, what do you think and why do you think it? And listen to them. Just listen. And then if you don't understand, say, wait, you said this and that makes me think this. Is that the right thought I should have? And, and if so, is that the right thought you should have? And whatnot. Question things. Get them to question. Be like, because a lot of them haven't opened their eyes. You ever seen a baby cry? They shut their eyes. You can tell their ears are pretty much closed up. There's nothing getting through to that. And that's how they walk around. They walk around, eyes shut, ears closed. But if you can calm them down just enough to get them to open their eyes and see that everything is all right, open their ears and hear that everything is all right, then they might just start to think that everything is all right. When it comes to these racists and bigots, it's not why they are. It's sometimes that they are. And sometimes, actually most of the time, it can be why. It's a circle. You got to break that link. Break it. Shatter it. Little by little. And then they start to understand life is not what I've been led to believe. Because I'm going to promise you this. Any belief that any of these people have, no matter whether it's social, politics, religious, or anything, These are the beliefs that they did not choose to have, but they were taught to have. And know for sure, if they don't uphold this, then they are going to be severely punished. And they don't want that. So you have to talk to them and give them their own personal autonomy. Let them know that their sentience, their personal sentience is important onto them, not somebody else's sentience onto them. They should not have, no one should have dominion over them. They should have dominion over themselves, their thoughts. And if they're toting somebody else's beliefs as fact, they need to question it, think about it, sit down by themselves and really contemplate it without any TV, any propaganda, or anything like that, or somebody in their ear telling them who to hate and why they should hate them. They should ask, why do I hate this? Who taught me? Why have I held on to it? And if I find it wrong, if I find that it's not accurate, if I find that it might not be completely right, what can I do to change myself? Because that's the hardest part. Looking in that mirror and saying, you have to be better today than you were yesterday. And repeating that every day and ensuring that you're going to be better. That's my message. That's my solution. If anyone out there has a solution on how to get these gun fetish people to change other things, hey, let me know. Let everyone else know in the comment section. You've seen everything up here, but so I'm going to get up out of here. And again, please check out Mr. Bear. Check him out. He does real good. So, if you want to get to his YouTube channel, just put in, Mr. Bear. Or you can, tinyurl.com/the Mr. Bear. This is Cedric Kennedy for Comparative Reasoning. Thank you for listening.